Edwin Moon, pioneer aviator and World War I hero, was born in Southampton in 1886. Sometimes referred to as Edward or Eric Moon, he preferred to be called Rowland, although he was christened Edwin after his father, also called Edwin, and lived with his family at 12 Cranberry Avenue in Southampton. He was educated at Bannister Court School and then as a boarder at Cranley School in Surrey, where he trained as an engineer. On leaving school in 1904, he worked initially in his father's finance business in Hanover Buildings, Southampton, but soon set up his own limited company, Moonbeams Limited, at the medieval Woolhouse building on Town Quay, specializing in the production of marine engines and wrought iron propellers for export. However, he was inspired by the Wright Brothers' recent successes and Bleriot's crossing of the English Channel. His business meant that he travelled the country meeting other aviators, and he soon also established a reputation for his own scientific approach to aviation. In 1910, using a corner of the Woolhouse, he designed and built his first aeroplane, which was a Demoiselle type, which he named Moonbeam I. He used the Forley area to test Moonbeam I because he was courting his future wife, Isabel Madeleine Waldron, who lived in nearby Hythe. To begin with, the aircraft undertook a series of hops in and around Southampton, at Our, Webster's Field, and Regent's Park, Moulin's Field. This led to the development of Moonbeam II, a monoplane with a 24-foot wingspan weighing 260 pounds, of which 160 pounds was a 4-cylinder 20-horsepower JAP engine fitted with a 6-foot wooden propeller. The principles of flight are based on a weight-to-power ratio, and it was the thrust provided by the newly invented combustion engine, driven by petrol, that was both light and powerful enough to make the first manned flight possible. The aircraft was conveyed by horse and cart to the flat fields Edwin Moon had seen whilst commuting to work. The exact date of the first flight from North Stoneham Farm, which was later to become the site of Southampton International Airport, was between the 12th of April and the 11th of June 1910, and despite mishaps he successfully flew his plane on a number of occasions and achieved his aviator's certificate in 1914. On joining the Royal Navy Air Service at the outbreak of World War I, he became a flight sub-lieutenant and served at Calshot under Commander Port, the flying boat designer and pioneer. His military service took him to East Africa, based on HMS Hyacinth. In June 1917, Moon was awarded the Distinguished Service Order. The citation reads, "Since April 1916 has carried out constant flights over the enemy's coast, including reconnaissance, bomb-dropping and spotting for gunfire in all weathers, has shown great coolness and resources on all occasions." On the 21st of November 1917, he received a bar to his DSO, in other words, the same medal again, in relation to action against the light cruiser Königsberg, which was hiding in the refugee delta. The citation for the bar to his DSO reads, "In recognition of the resource and gallantry displayed by him in the following circumstances, on the 6th of January 1918, whilst on a reconnaissance flight over the refugee delta, with Commander the Honourable Richard O.B. Bridgman, DSO RN, as observer, he was obliged by engine trouble to descend in one of the creeks, where it became necessary to destroy the seaplane to avoid the possibility of it being captured. For 3 whole days the 2 officers wandered about the delta in their efforts to avoid capture and to rejoin their ship. During this time they had little or nothing to eat, and were constantly obliged to swim across the creeks, the bushes on the banks being impenetrable. On the morning of the 7th of January they constructed a raft of 3 spars and some latticed window frames. After paddling and drifting on this for the whole of the 7th and 8th of January, they were finally coursed out to sea on the morning of the 9th, when Commander Bridgman, who was not a strong swimmer, died of exhaustion and exposure. In the later afternoon, Flight Commander Moon managed to reach the shore and was taken prisoner by the Germans. He was released from captivity on the 21st of November 1917. he displayed the greatest gallantry in attempting to save the life of his companion. As well as his DSO, Moon was awarded the Royal Humane Society Silver Medal for his attempts to save Bridgman's life and the Legion of Honour Croix de Chevalier. After the war, Moon was in command of the flying boat station at Felixstowe with the rank of squadron leader in the newly formed RAF. On the 11th of August 1919, Moon survived the crash of the Felixstowe Fury flying boat, which killed one of the crew. The Fury was a large 5-engine flying boat which had just left Felixstowe on a test flight to Plymouth. She was due the next day to attempt a long-distance 8,000-mile flight from England to South Africa and return. On the 29th of April 1920, Edwin Moon was at the controls of a flying boat on an instructional cruise when it crashed into the sea. He and 3 other crew members were killed. The coroner said as far as he could make out there was nothing wrong with the machine or the piloting. It appeared to be a pure accident. He recorded a verdict of death from injuries received through the sudden accidental fall of a flying boat. His body was brought to his home at Bassett, Southampton, and then taken on a gun carriage covered with a Union Jack to the old cemetery chapel. The band from the Royal Garrison Artillery Portsmouth played Chopin's funeral march, and the ceremony was attended by RAF detachments from Calshot and Felixstowe. The chaplain to the RAF, the Reverend G.H. Collier, officiated, and so Squadron Leader Major Edwin Rowland Moon, DSO and Bar, and Chevalier of the Legion of Honour, was buried with full military honours.